I have something really important to talk about. If you're a watercolor painter or any painter, but right now I'm going to be talking about watercolor in particular, and that is brush care. How to take good care of your beautiful, valuable brushes, or even if they're inexpensive brushes, you want to take care of them and they will serve you a really long time. And the biggest thing that I see um, when I'm painting with students, either here in the studio or on Zoom or on workshops, anywhere, one of the biggest things that I see people do that will lead to the quickest rot of your brush, I mean, literally, it's going to cause your brushes to fall apart, is to leave them in a little pot of water like this and just let them sit there in between this color or that color. They'll just stick it in here thinking, oh, no, like let's soak in the bathtub. No, it's a really bad idea. So what happens when that's occurring is that brush is sitting in the bottom of the jar and it's getting a really bad hair day because it's getting really waterlogged, and that those bristles are all sitting down here. So you're screwing up that beautiful point. I mean, look at this nice brush. So this is a Princeton Velvet Touch. It's a long round, size 10, and it's got this nice round belly in of the brush, but it's got a beautiful point. And this allows you to paint wonderfully thick lines and thin, narrow lines. And if you break down the fiber of these bristles and give them a bad hair day from sitting in a tub of water, you're going to really regret it. So just make sure whatever you do, break that habit. It's something I see so many people do because nobody's ever told them. And the other thing that's going to do, besides giving your bristles a bad hair day, all that water soaks up into the ferrule. And these are not only crimped on right here, but they're glued onto this wooden handle or plastic handle, whatever it may be. I've got, let's see. Yeah, there's some with plastic handles, and it's the same thing. They are crimped on, but they're also glued on. And so what you don't want to do is allow that to soak, just sitting there in your cup of water, because it's eventually going to dissolve that glue. And then at first, maybe you won't notice, but then you'll get this little jiggle. And when you're trying to paint a straight line and this part is jiggling because it's coming loose and it's going to fall off, it's going to be really annoying. It's going to screw up what you're working on. It's going to make it harder for you to paint. So it's just it's just going to make it harder for you to paint. And then you're going to be frustrated because you spent money on this beautiful brush that now you've screwed up because you just let it sit in a pot of water. So, and eventually that'll fall off. And not only that, it'll, when it gets all, soaked up into this brush and it gets into the wood, that causes the wood to swell, then the paint cracks on the surface, and the paint, the finish on your brush is going to start chipping off. And I think I have a brush that I had do that from way in my early days of painting because nobody had told me. And I thought it was a crummy brush. It's not a crummy brush. It's because you treated your brush so crummy. So break that habit. So another thing that I do is, and let me see if I can get my webcam pointed down here at my surface. So let's just aim this over here for a little bit, lower this down. So back to my nice little clean thing of water. When I'm rinsing off paint, I give it a really good swish, and let's load it with just paint just so we can see, what does it take to really rinse off some paint. So I've got some, nice green. I'm not sure. I think this is Cascade Green by Daniel Smith. So I've got my green. What I do first is I wipe off that extra. Then I'm going to swish really hard. And I'm going to, in my napkin, I'm going to see my paper towels. I'm going to see if there's any residue left. If there is residue and I still have paint coming, I'm going to give it another swish. And I'm going to swish it until there is no residue left in that brush. So I've pulled out the excess water, and then I'm going to lay it flat on my table, because then everything is going to just evaporate. It's just a cotton tea towel. So I just lay that flat. So what you don't want to do is, I've got a bunch of brushes that I actually stick in a container or cup. I've got 4 cups of brushes sitting here on my table, and kind of divided out by certain ones that I like to use. This is just an old tea container. So once it's dry, then I'll put it in my upright cup. Because if you just stored this upright right away while it's still wet, well, then all that water is going to be running down into the ferrule. So you don't want to do that yet. So just let it dry flat. It'll be dry maybe a couple hours, or the next time you go back to paint. So, it won't take that long, but you'll see that when you do, when you're mindful of taking care of your brushes, they're going to last you a really long time. I've got, let's see if I have this laying out here. One of my brushes, it's a beautiful sable-haired brush. Yeah, here it is. So it's my Isabey brush that I had, gosh, I think I bought this back in the mid-90s, 1990 something. That's around a long time. And it used to have a point, and it's been used so much that the tip is kind of rounded. But I still love it. And, it'll come to somewhat of a point. It's not as long and pointy as it was, because I think, just like if I dragged my own hair on the sidewalk or across a paper for 25 years, it would kind of get worn and softened ends too. But synthetics can be a wonderful substitute. The synthetics that they're making nowadays compared to when I started, getting serious about watercolor in the 90s, they've come a long way. So anyway, my sable brush would probably cost at least 8 times what my synthetic one would. So keep that in mind too, is that if you have forked out money for, the king's ransom to buy a beautiful sable brush, you would never want to let it just sit around in a pot of water. Oh man, I just cringe thinking about it. So anyway, take care of your brushes, and they're going to take care of you. They're going to serve you well for a long time. And this is like a public service announcement. So just think of it that way. If you liked this quick little video tip, give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And anybody that you see leaving their brushes in a cup of water, send this to them. They really need to hear this, or they're going to be forking out a lot of money on brushes needlessly. So anyway, thanks for listening in. And if you like this as well, I'm going to be putting out new tips each week. So hope you'll join me, subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you around. Happy painting. Bye.